No peace?
No peace. I don't know.
No peace? You can't even say it, can you?
Well, I don't want to say because I'm a girl, and then it makes it seem like I'm playing a card or something. I don't want to do that.
No peace, no pussy.
There, you can.
None of that poo-nanny.
Oh my god! Don't say punani. That's terrible.
I don't know. They
Pussy's fine, but not punani.
They use practically every,
including that one. But that's just like, I know some girls are like, ew, don't call it a pussy. I'm fine with that. But like punani, it's just like.
Poontang.
Ew. Oh, that's what it is. Pootang. It's just like, ew.
Hi, this is Ren.
I think we're past that at this point. We go far enough into the review. So we just saw Chiraq, but we saw it as a cinema slapdown event at our college. So we'll talk about the movie, but we'll also talk a lot about the debate because holy shit was that interesting. Oh my god.
Oh yeah. If there's some footage that gets put online, we will definitely put links below once it comes out. It was a lot different than your debate with Mad Max, which was a pretty friendly debate. This was
the chick had like nobody was disagreeing with me. That was the problem. That was not a problem in this movie.
Oh, this was polarizing. I thought there might have been some bloody faces and some broken bones if things got heated up anymore. Mm-hmm. Now, just as a disclaimer right here, we live in Chicago, but a different side of Chicago. And I could actually argue that it didn't really have to be Chicago.
Yeah, that was one thing in the movie is that it is trying to make a global message and not be Chicago. And a lot of people point out that, oh, it's not like this in Chicago or whatever. And it's fine. You could have just been like, oh, Chicago. It could have even been just generic Chicago.
I think it was really interesting to show Chicago in that context. The fact that most of the primary characters are black is very exclusive to Chicago.
Yeah,
because of the racial segregation.
That was actually the biggest criticism I heard before I saw the movie, is a lot of people at my job were like, where are the Latinos? Yeah.
I can understand that sentiment, partly because Spike Lee's earlier film, which the person alluded to, the person at the cinema slapdown alluded to several times, which was the Do the Right Thing, was all about racial mix. There was Puerto Ricans, there was Asians, there were black people. They were all coexisting together, and there's still like racial tension. The whole movie is about racial tension. Do the Right Thing. This movie is interesting because it really isn't about a black and white racial tension. This movie really wanted to focus on black crime.
Mm-hmm.
Although it alluded to, obviously the brutality.
Black Lives Matter and police brutality. As well it should have. And I think that it was pretty good about its stances politically on a lot of things. But one thing I actually did really like about the fact that it was focusing on black crime is that the issue is that no matter what social situation you're put in and no matter what particular governmental or religious or anything like that systems are in play, human beings will always find a reason to fucking kill each other. No matter what. No matter how similar they are. People fucking kill other people.
Hence why it's based off a 1,000-year-old play.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where I think having it put in that context makes it a little bit more universal than it might otherwise be.
Right, and I will say that the subject matter, depending on what message you're trying to get across, if you go too much in one way, there's audiences that will just be turned off.
Well, there were a lot of audience members who were turned off from this movie.
Right.
But I'm just saying that I think that does make a difference in terms of the universality of the film when the film is very clearly trying to reach a global audience. It's very clearly trying to say, we're talking about Chicago specifically, but this is happening everywhere all over the world except Japan, which it showed. I'm sorry, seriously, gun violence in Japan is not an issue, dude.
Though,
compared to everywhere else.
I question that a little bit because, granted, this is probably... I can't speak for Spike Lee's entire filmography because I've not seen it, but this is a lot more ethnocentric than a lot of Spike Lee's films, and by that I mean there's a specific linguist style of this film, which is essentially floetry, which for those of you who don't understand what that means, it's poetry with the beats of rap. So it's kind of like slam poetry,
but it also alludes back to the play that it's based on in terms of having it all rhyme and be poetic and fit a certain stanza and that sort of thing.
And it was really interesting because, like, I first caught onto it and I was like, is this movie going there? Because if it is, I like it.
Oh, I always knew that about the movie. And I knew that there was a lot of choreographed movement and synchronized movement in the film because I'd only seen 2 10-second clips. And I caught that. Spike Lee had a lot of balls to get this movie fucking made because it does not fit any parameter of filmmaking. It doesn't fit, it defies the format of Hollywood films because it's abstract. It's not abstract at all. It's very narrative based. But it's also very stage-like. I mean, it is a stage play, but it also utilizes every method of film that you can in terms of stylistically. The PD was on point. There was insane amount of color coding, which I always respect in a film. I really like color coding. There were a lot of moments that were choreographed and synchronized in terms of the actual action that's supposed to be happening in real life. And then there were also a bunch of what would in any other film be musical numbers in the movie. There was text popping up on the screen all the time in all different fonts in all different ways, saying all different kinds of messages at different points in the film. It's incredibly bold. It's just such a weird fucking movie in terms of the way it was made, and I like that. I like that it's really stylistically not like any other movie.
I would recommend putting on the subtitles. In the theater that we watched the film in, the subtitles were put on. I really think that you'll appreciate the movie more if you
can see the script.
Yeah, if you can see the script on screen.
I agree with that. But also, before we get into spoiler territory, this film is very polarizing, very love it or hate it. And I personally feel like it's exactly half and half, good and bad. It's interesting, though. And I give lots of brownie points for interesting.
I honestly am leaning more towards the good. Like, I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. There were parts that I have problems with because this is in no way a perfect movie.
Oh, no. I mean, the flaws are huge.
Oh, yeah,
there are giant problems that are not overcomable. I don't know how to say that.
To be fair to the argument of people screaming in the audience that we had, making good points, though.
Better than the debaters. No offense to those guys, but dude, neither one of you could put together a point. And there were people in the audience who were on point, very articulate, had really strong opinions that really changed the way I thought about the film. And both the pro and the con side, who were actually booked to do the film, just bumbling a lot. Well, neither one of them really got to say anything, but when they did, I'm just fair, say something, damn it.
A lot of the people in the audience
weren't giving them the time of day.
Well, yeah, but also came from the place that the movie is supposed to take place in.
Yeah, there were definitely a lot of personal experiences in the mix, which is something we can get into later, I guess. It's interesting. I can't say it's a good or a bad movie, but it's thought-provoking. It's provocative, which I give a lot of brownie points for provocative. It actually evokes something that's not just like, it's a movie, whatever.
What's your experience with Spike Lee? Have you seen Do the Right Thing?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what else I've seen, though.
25th Hour?
That might be it.
That's probably true.
I think that's probably it.
Have you seen Malcolm X?
Yes. Okay. Yes, that was it. Those are the only 2 I've seen.
Spike Lee has always been a provocateur.
Oh yeah, I agree. It's just like, I was telling you about this before, how on our Columbia campus, there's a lot of visual arts and installation projects, and I honestly don't like most of them. And it's not politically, it's creatively. It's just boring. It doesn't make me feel anything, which frustrates me more than if it made me offended, honestly.
I personally like art that evokes an emotion. Art doesn't always have to evoke a positive emotion to me.
No.
Art shouldn't always evoke a positive emotion because...
No, you need to be challenged, for sure.
Well, yeah, and I mean, this movie tried to challenge the massive amount of deaths of children caused by gun violence. I mean, yes, there's death to other people, but it was really focused on that. Children getting caught in the crossfires of gang violence.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is not in a literal sense of our actual children, our actual people who are young right now, but in terms of not perpetuating the cycle. Not exactly the people who are children now, but for the next generation and the generation after that and the generation after that.
And I do think that the whole no peace, no pussy that the women propose in the film, that the women literally block the men off from having sex, I think part of that has to do with the side of procreation. That part
they said that explicit. I mean, we're starting to get into spoilers, so we'll put a cap on this soon and get into it. But they do specifically say that at certain points in the film.
Right, and that part I appreciate with no peace, no pussy. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously there are problems with that mentality. First of all, women denying sex is not going to fix the fucking problem.
Yeah, that was an issue that the chick behind us pointed out, that if this actually happened, women would just start getting raped. And I thought that was an excellent point. And then the woman who was on stage who was arguing for the movie was like, well, now you're applying stereotypes about thugs. And it's like, no, like, this is a thing about human sexuality. If you try to deny people sex, not everybody, and I'm not saying that this is a thing about men either, but that will lead to an increase in rape. That will, unequivocally. Right. If it's like a huge population thing like that, yeah. I was actually waiting for the movie to get into that, and I was kind of like, how did you not ever get into that?
I was also wondering, because I thought there was going to be, in classical Greek style, somebody who betrayed that concept. And
that did happen.
It did, but it was the wrong person. You know, if it were one of the women that was no peace, no pussy,
I think she was.
If she were a primary character, like, in terms of Greek storytelling, it would have been one of the people that...
I know. Now, with all filters off and spoilers on, I guess let's start at the beginning. Stylistically, I have problems with the opening. Because you have a very striking logo, which I like, and then you play an entire song with nothing but the lyrics on it, mostly only taking up half the screen. And then you go back to the logo, and then you go back to lyrics, and that's a whole song. And I'm like, this is a film. We live in an era where even the shittiest fucking songs get epic music videos made by like A+ directors. Make a music video. Make a short film in the middle of your longer film. You need to have more punch and impact
and
there.
I get that they were trying to draw attention to the words.
I agree, too. I'm not saying get rid of the lyrics at all. Like, keep the lyrics on the screen. 100%. I love that part. But you have to have something going on that really enforces what the words are saying. That was, I think, to me, like, stylistically, that was the weakest part of the film, was the opening, which is not good.
It's not good, because originally, like, when I started watching it, I was like, okay, they're gonna cut now. They're gonna, we're gonna start seeing
4 minutes of seeing just black screen.
Yeah, with lyrics thrown up on the screen.
Yeah, but like I said, I like the lyrics, but the lyrics are so short, and they're usually only on half the screen anyway. You gotta really start off with a bang.
Yeah, and this movie did not start off with a bang.
Maybe that was a bad choice of words. I meant like a firework. I didn't mean like...
I think that would have been ballsy. I think if this movie decided to do something like the opening to Lord of War, it's following the production of a bullet. And then you see all the movement, where the bullet goes, and then it gets fired into a kid's head.
Wow.
Yeah, it's one of the most shocking and amazing openings I have ever seen in a movie.
Yeah, you really needed something like that.
It's a way to balance out the movie, because, like, this movie goes from 11 seriousness on a scale of 1 to 10. 11 seriousness.
Oh, at the very beginning? Yes, and then it never gets back there. Warning, this is a state of emergency, in this whole news spiel about how there's more shootings in Chicago than deaths of Americans in Iraq, which gun violence is a huge fucking problem in America, and very specifically America. And it's not because other countries just don't have guns or they have regulations. Most countries seem to have enough responsibility to say either we can't handle having guns, so we're just not going to have guns, or we're grown up enough to use these responsibly and use these well, and use these a lot, and not run around fucking killing people all the fucking time. And America just can't wrap their head around that for some reason.
Well, that's also because America has one of the most fucked up economic divides compared to any other fucking country.
Very true.
you go to even like third world countries and it's like dirt poor, really fucking rich. Whereas in America has like there's like a division. Then there are people who have money, but do they really have money? Look at their fucking bank account. No, they really don't have money. They lose their fucking job and then they're fucking dirt poor like everybody fucking else. So everybody's on edge all the time. That's the biggest fucking problem with this movie. Honestly, really the fucking biggest problem is the fucking economy, not fucking pussy.
Well, yeah, that's not something that's like never brought up or only brought up once or only brought up twice.
Right, but there are economic divisions in this country. And because of economic divisions, we create the divide. And yes, part of that is racially motivated because, well, let's face it, there was the fucking civil rights movement, and where the fuck are those people gonna go? Those communities were already created, and then the white people fucking moved to the suburbs because they don't want to fucking deal with it. So you have cities that are created like that. Chicago is the prime fucking example of that, which is why the movie uses that as an example.
And the title sounds good.
Chiraq is literally what people from the south side of Chicago call that part of Chicago.
Right.
They're like, this isn't Chicago, this is Chiraq, because there's so much violence and it's literally like a fucking war zone. I'll put a link in the description below. If you're interested in finding out more about Chicago, there's a great piece on Vice that actually gets
Vice News.
Vice News, yes, not
fucking Vice.com. Fuck that shit.
Yeah, we have to explain that because, we could talk about that on a different day.
Broadly.
Oh my god.
The other thing is that gun violence is just so fucking prevalent. I mean, it's coming up more and more all the time that America averages more than one mass shooting a day. The reason why this is so shocking is because mass shooting is far and away the least amount of gun violence that actually comes from gun violence. Like, that's out of all the categories of like accidents and muggings and like murders and suicide, mass murders is at the very bottom, way freaking down here. I'm gesturing in real life, I don't know why. And that's occurring more than once a day. More than once a day, 4 people at least are being shot and possibly killed. Yeah. Only just that one very specific controlled instance.
And to be fair, that
then you start putting in figures of just overall gun violence or the amount of children under the age of 10 who die because of gun accidents. Oh my god. It's horrible. It's unbelievable. And the worst thing is that we have this system that is so fucked up that keeps perpetuating this over and over and over and over again. And there's no actual conversation happening. There's yelling at each other that our rights versus think of the children. That, or worse yet, like Hillary, where she's like, hold the gun makers accountable. Hold the sellers accountable for following the law. Like, what the fuck can you do when it's the law? Dylan Roof legally got a gun because of a loophole in the legal system. That's not the seller's fault.
Yeah, in almost every case of... I won't say that because...
Well, in mass shootings, it's really hard to tell because as much as people want to be like, it's always an angry white guy, which is also not true anyways, but most of the thing is that out of all the mass shootings, most of the time, the shooter's not known and is never known. So there's no real way to make a blanket statement about usually this or usually that.
I will say that usually... people are from a mid to lower socioeconomic background. Mm-hmm. For the most part, at least in the United States.
It's just so fucked up to think about because the same day that the Bryce shootings happened, the ones that were on the air, everyone was losing their shit over. Very same morning, I think about 2 hours apart, there was a mass shooting in Garfield Park, I think, here in Chicago. And witnesses were like, we were just there having a nice day, and this guy got out and started shooting random people. Fucked.
One thing that often doesn't get addressed is the fact that, quite frankly, it's easy.
It's insanely easy. People are like, oh, but state laws, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, let me explain this to you.
Take a gun safety fucking course. Oh. It's really fucking easy to just squeeze a fucking trigger and kill somebody. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to have any fucking skill. Obviously, if you actually want to shoot the person, then you might have to have some skill at a distance. But if you just fucking squeeze the trigger... and the bullet goes somewhere, it could kill somebody.
Yeah, and it's not difficult to do that with a gun. Also, on The Daily Show, Jordan Klepper did this great 10-minute piece where he tried to become a good guy with a gun. And he was trying to become a licensed gun carrier using lots of different loopholes in our legal system. And then getting the minimum course training. And then actually taking a real course on like, hey, if you want to prevent an actual crime from happening, you need to go through the simulation and how fucked it was. The other thing about guns is people are like, oh, but state laws and state laws and state laws. And I'm like, okay, let me put it to you this way. Chicago, you're not allowed to sell spray paint. You can't buy spray paint in Chicago. So you know what I do? I just walk over, because I'm less than a mile from it. I walk over the Chicago-Evanston city line, and I go to the first any place that sells... Actually, there's a Sherman-Williams right there, and I get spray paint there. It's right fucking there, and I bring it right back into Chicago, because for fuck's sake, there's no borders on cities, there's no, like, actual border patrolling or anything like that on cities or on states, and I'm not saying that there should be, but I'm saying when people are like, the San Bernardino mass shooting, well, there are gun laws there that would prohibit something like that from happening and still happen, and it's like, well, yeah, he goes outside of fucking California and comes back.
Right, and also, I gotta put a disclaimer out here. There is literally no way to talk about this film without talking about gun violence.
Well, there's also no way to talk about this film and not get heated. One way or another. No matter what your opinion is, you don't just, oh, well, whatever.
Yeah, which I love about the film. Yeah. I love the fact that this is a film that doesn't have... You just sit on your ass and go,
whatever.
That was a movie. I mean, if you had that experience, please, for the love of God, put that in the comments below. Because I would be interested to see if somebody had that opinion.
Yeah. I mean, even though I'm like, I feel very in the middle on the film, I have a very strong reaction to the things that the film's talking about.
Yeah, because, I mean, well, it's like abortion. You have a fucking opinion on it.
Okay.
Everybody has an opinion on it.
How am I supposed to follow that up, dude? You just threw that out there and I'm like, whoa, that's like a completely different issue.
I had a science teacher that used to say in class, what's your opinion on this? It's like guns and abortion. Everybody has an opinion on it. So that's why I brought that up.
Okay, because I was like, that wasn't anywhere in this movie. Okay. But here's the thing. As upset as we're getting about the content, which everybody in the audience was, like everybody, a lot of people in the audience brought up that they felt, you know, especially based on their personal experiences, they felt that the film was wrong for being lighthearted and funny and satirical about a serious subject matter, and to a certain extent, I completely agree, because I know people at Columbia who will not touch the movie Irreversible with a 9.5-foot pole. Like, they physically shudder when they hear that title, and they're like, I'm not going to watch that. No way. I'm like, well, let me put it to you like this. With the content of Irreversible, if it doesn't make you seriously uncomfortable, it's doing a disservice. And I never got to the point where I actually felt physically seriously uncomfortable in the film. I got seriously uncomfortable thinking about real life things, thinking about things in my head, you know, things I've heard in news, blah, blah, blah. And then when people were coming up and telling their stories and their personal everything, definitely feeling a lot of serious weight and consideration to that. In the actual film, never. I never got to the point where I took anything seriously. And I do see that as a big problem. I'm not saying the whole film has to be like a complete bummer. I'm not saying you can't have fun and style and whatever you need to do. But you gotta have ups and downs. And especially if you're talking about something that affects people so seriously, you gotta get into it at some point.
I personally think that the movie had one scene that really got into it. And that was the scene at the little girl's funeral.
But that's part of... We'll get into the problems with that scene. That's my thing. Your scene was the little girl's funeral. Not the little girl's death. Not when she was actually on the sidewalk dead in a white sheet. That's a problem. That you have that kind of imagery and you have that subject in your movie, and who feels bad about it?
Well,
that was like way too clean.
Stylistically,
didn't have enough emotional impact.
Right.
And that was the moment that really needed to hammer it home. Like, this is happening to real people. This is where you need to get that, like, lead in your gut.
What the movie could have done better was to introduce the girl as a character.
Yeah, that's true.
Because introducing, especially a kid, into a film, and I've seen movies, this is the most manipulative thing you can ever fucking do. It's like
dogs in movies. As soon as I see a dog in a film, I'm like, oh, the dog's gonna die.
Yeah, but, like, it's one of those things where it'll affect you. I mean, most people.
Yeah.
Obviously, I can't speak for everybody, but it's made to affect you. And I'm really curious to see why Spike Lee, especially when this is such a pressing issue, why not to introduce a character that later gets killed?
Ever. That never happens in the movie.
Yeah. I did think the funeral scene was really powerful.
Right, and we can really get into that, but I think...
Especially when the coffin goes into...
the car.
It lingering on that shot was... Like, I would probably say that that's my favorite shot in the entire movie.
See, I would say in terms of seriousness, I felt it the most with people who had actually been physically disabled by gang violence. Because there were a lot of people who were on crutches and in wheelchairs who were talking about, my son is quadriplegic because he got shot in his body 14 times. I will say that was probably the closest I ever got to feeling a real impact, I guess.
See, like, me with that funeral scene, partly because I grew up going to African-American churches. Mm-hmm. And yes, I did attend a couple funerals and stuff. So, like, I understand the way that worship works. Mm-hmm. Because it is different. Like, every culture has their own
Well, also, every
style.
Church is different, not just even based on denomination, but even from location to location.
It felt perfect. I know that minister is based off of a real minister.
Yeah, so I know John Cusack was specifically asked, like... No, it wasn't John Cusack. I think it was Spike Lee. Someone involved in the filmmaking was specifically asked, like, why the fuck did you make this a white guy priest? What was up with that? And he's like, no, it's based on a real guy who really acted like that, except for, I would think without the eyeliner, because that's just something John Cusack's been doing lately.
Right, but I mean, like, yeah, there is, like, this really white guy who is the minister for an all-black church.
Well, I liked it when he said, like, I knew if I was going to be a minister, I'd have to go into the streets because Jesus rose with the poor people. Yes! You understand the Bible! Holy shit! Who really understands the Bible? But my point is...
That is a direct quote from that
him?
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that guy is fucking amazing. I'll try to find his information because, like, holy fucking shit. Say what you will about fucking religion. You can't even touch those fucking people. Those are the people who literally make religion worth it.
For me, my problem with the funeral scene is that if this film existed in a vacuum, I wouldn't really have such a problem with it. But I've had too many experiences, including real experiences, where a priest chooses to use a funeral where somebody is dead, and in front of their family and closely related loved ones and all that stuff, these people who are grieving, who are bereaved, who need help, who are feeling confused, who need, at a church of all fucking places, spiritual guidance and solace, or not maybe solace, but they need emotional help. And too many times I've seen a priest use that situation to push a religious agenda or a political agenda, to talk about hellfire and how you see this dead person here who's great. Let me talk to you about hell for a minute. Let me tell you how if you don't follow the Bible, you're all gonna burn in flames in front of somebody who the people in the church don't want to think about going to hell. And when you put that in this situation where a mother's been grieving for her daughter and you see these scenes where she's washing her child's blood out of the sidewalk, you have this minister who, speech-wise, I didn't really have a problem with his speech, but who's talking about government and oppression and just fuck the system and change the system and getting all into these other things that have nothing to do with this little girl. And the mom is barely involved in the scene. When you see her, she's completely mute. She's not engaged. It's not about her. It's not about her grief. It's not about him helping the community or helping this woman. It's all about him talking about something else. And I couldn't stand that. I was just waiting for that scene to end, and it just went on and on and on. I'm like, you gotta at least bring it back to the little girl. I mean, I know the reward thing, but I mean, even that, he's like, or any other killers, which is fine theoretically, but this was supposed to be about her. That was a time to, like, really make you feel it.
Theoretically, I agree with you. However, since this movie is done in a non-traditional narrative style and the movie essentially addresses ideas more than specifics, I personally think the scene works. I think it's powerful. I think it's the best scene in the entire movie. And I find it to be the most provoking scene in the entire movie. I find the message to be the most clear that it ever gets in the movie.
I will 100% agree on that, because my biggest appreciation for the film is that no matter what political movement you're involved in, there is no organization of political movements anymore. It's all like, well, we don't have a leader and we're just a group of individuals with a similar cause. It's theoretically great, but what that comes down to is too many people going too many different directions with no real goal, no real cause, no real message, no real solutions to anything. They're not looking for something. They're just like, fix it. That's not going to get you anywhere.
Right.
There's so many times where I'm like one of the reasons why Metropolis is one of my favorite films is because as soon as I was done with it, I was like, people who are into political revolution today need to sit down and watch this and take some notes. And in this film, the message is abundantly clear. Get your shit organized. Come up with some actual solutions that will help and demand it. You might need to demand it over and over again. But don't just say, oh, this is bad. This is bad. This is a problem. Fix it. Somebody come fix it. That's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem. I agree with you. It's the biggest problem today, which is there's so many people that, claim activism, but all they do is, bitch and fight with each other. And plus, they argue with people that agree with them. That's the biggest thing that I see now, where people, it's like, I agree with you, but I'm more liberal or I'm more oppressed than you, so therefore we can't fight for the same fucking cause. It shouldn't matter what the fucking color of your skin is. If you both fucking agree that certain fucking racial issues are going on, why not fucking work together, move past your fucking differences, work together for a common fucking cause? That used to be the case. Now everybody wants to fucking fight with each other. What the fuck?
I completely agree. So, the speech that he gives in that funeral scene, I think, is great. I just think that setting is all wrong.
What do you think's wrong with that setting? The fact that it's in a church? That's where the community...
No, that's fine that
especially,
it's in a church.
Especially with African Americans.
No, I agree. And honestly, if it wasn't her funeral, I would have been fine with it. That would have been totally fine to me.
Okay,
that's
fair
my problem.
Fair point.
But
yeah.
If, exactly like you said, it's Sunday morning, he has the congregation together, this is his sermon for the day, fine. 100% on board. But that's not what that scene needed to be about. I understand that I'm taking this way too seriously for someone who's not even a character. But...
to be fair... And I don't know if the movie was trying to point this out. I'm not sure, so this is just my interpretation of that. That might have been a Sunday. That shit might happen so often that that's just a Sunday.
Maybe.
If that's the case, that scene fucking earns it.
Okay, maybe, but they don't make that very clear.
like we said, polarizing.
Yeah. Another big problem with the movie is that, like I said, it has a very clear message. Organize, get your shit together. A lot of the ideas that they come up with, like, we need a trauma center in the South Side. We need access to better education. We need to have schools put in. We need to have economic reform. Yes, these are real goals. These are real solutions to real problems. This is actually getting you somewhere. Awesome. And then in the end of the film, they're like, so... we magically created this treaty that says everybody gets a job. And we're immediately having all these things magically put in. And all you have to do is sign this piece of paper and it'll just be la la happy land. And it's like, what the fuck? It's just like,
I appreciate...
ridiculously unrealistic.
Well, I think that's addressing this one minor thing that's in the background, which is the Deus Ex Machina cafe.
Oh, yeah.
So I think...
laughed a lot when we saw that.
It's supposed to be there. Yeah, it's a Deus Ex Machina. There's no fucking way that would happen. And I think that's part of the joke of the movie. That the movie is a black comedy in more ways than one.
But here's my issue with it, is that the women are doing this celibacy protest, and they're like, well, it's never gonna work. There's no way we could really do this. No, this won't ever work. work. We can't really get there. And then they get there because they all try really hard and they actually take actions, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So then when you have this whole thing of like, well, we're just going to make it seem really ridiculous, but people will be like, oh, maybe we can do that now. I'm like, no. They're like, let's not make shit up that like everybody magically has a job now. No. Put in like programs to help people find work or something like that. That's fine. Okay, it's do something that we can actually do in real life.
Yeah. I mean, some people...
Because they were getting there, and then at the last minute, they're like, it's just going to be awesome. And it's like, no. Like, keep offering the real solutions. That was helpful.
Right. I mean, at the same time, you could go back and look at the idea that Spike Lee's company is inspired by, which is 40 Acres and a Mule, because that was something that was promised, but, like, even then, it wasn't that realistic of a promise.
Yeah,
I mean, 40 acres is a lot of land.
That's
especially...
a lot of land, but also for how many people? Like,
yeah, it's one of those things, like, you look at it and you're like, dude, what the fuck? Like, at the beginning. But at the same time, it's like, dude, totally fucking understand. Obviously, you've been oppressed.
Obviously, like,
we gotta fucking give you something.
That was a shit deal, but at the same time, even if they honored it, it's like, there's no way that could actually happen. But that doesn't mean just fuck it over, you know?
I'm curious. There's actually a podcast called the Alternate History Podcast. I want to propose to them the 40 Acres and a Mule to see, like, how they would actually predict the future being if 40 Acres and a Mule actually happened. And my prediction is things would still fucking suck because that shit probably would have gotten stolen back. Let's face it, there's a lot of fucking racism in this country. And especially back then, there's a lot of fucking racism now. And some people argue that racism is one-sided. I will say that nothing is one-sided. Every sort of political argument issue always comes from two angles. You can't have a conflict without two sides.
The other thing about the 40 Acres and a Mule thing is that at that time, that would also mark everyone who had 40 acres and a mule as a former slave.
True.
Like, that would have definitely been... not like inviting as in, oh, well, they're asking for it, but that would have made too many people very easy targets for...
And you know, we see
violent hate crimes.
Well, and when reparations happened, and you know, Abe Lincoln tried to make the reparations happen before he was shot by John Wilkes Booth. He tried to make the reparations happen, but you know, the Reconstruction that happened failed, and former slaves were failed by the U.S. government. And they were consistently shit on by the laws that be until, I mean, honestly, there's a lot of argument that you could say even to this day. We've gotten better, we've made advancements, and we should never forget the advancements that have been made. We should never forget the fact that, you know, people have fought and died for literally basic fucking shit, like the right to vote, the right to have people going to the same fucking school, the right to have people living amongst each other and not be oppressed just because of their skin color.
In livable conditions with clean water. Oh, wait.
There's still a lot of work to be done. Yeah, we're looking right at you, Michigan, if you didn't catch that.
Yeah. You're seriously too busy worrying about gay sex to help the thousands of people who are dealing with lead poisoning right now.
Oh, and by the way,
who are forced to stay in their worthless homes with completely poisoned water that's killing them. Yeah. And they're being told, you have to pay your water bills or else we'll foreclose on your house and we'll take your children away. Oh, you can't actually move away from here because since your house is worthless now, it's illegal for you to do that. Oh my God! Yeah. What the fuck?
Oh, and by the way, since gay marriage is legal throughout the entire United States, and now they have anti-sodomy laws, that means that if you go to Michigan and get a blowjob or decide to fuck a chick in the ass, now, obviously, there's some gay people listening, so, you know, obviously, you know, blah, blah, blah. But I'm talking to the straight people right now.
Blah, 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 just gloss over that.
No, but I'm talking about the straight people, which means that, like, like getting a fucking blowjob.
That's the thing, is that this is one of those things that is being written to be abused.
Yeah,
As
it
in,
is.
This is not, so if a dude gets a blowjob from a chick in his car and a cop comes along, he's gonna arrest them. This is for a cop sees two men together, he can claim that he saw them fuck each other and arrest them because they're openly gay. That's what it's about.
Right. That's why the legal system is actually, like, fought against anti-sodomy laws and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because that's not for everybody. That is specifically targeting one demographic. Yeah. For something that lots of different people enjoy, by the way.
Exactly, and that was the point that I was trying to make.
No, I know, but like I said, I still would not really worry about that if you're straight and in Michigan.
I'm just saying, because the way that the law works, they can't target a specific group. Therefore, if something happened according to the law,
I know what
somebody could say, "Oh, well, my daughter was blowing some guy, therefore they should get arrested." You know, it's a way to get the community against each other, which is how half these fucking laws come into existence, to make people, like, go against each other. I mean, look at fucking marijuana. I mean, like, honestly, that's meant to, like, marginalize racial minorities. I mean, let's face it. I mean,
also economic.
Yeah.
Economic minorities.
Exactly, because weed is cheap compared to most other drugs.
Or booze.
Yeah, or booze. I mean, like, honestly, I mean, like, depending on how you smoke, you can, like, pay $50 and be good for, like, 2 months. Whereas, like, booze, you can't do that.
Right.
Like, even if you're drinking PBR.
I mean, the American system is just so fucked. The biggest problem that, like, every system that America functions on is that they're all designed to drain the most amount of money out of each individual, which does not lead to a healthy economy, which leads to a plethora of social issues that, in many cases, are not possible to overcome.
Right. I mean, it leads to you having to lock your doors at night. It leads to you feeling that you need to have a gun. It leads to gang violence. It leads to...
Like even the lyrics that they have in the song, which is where this guy can't pay his bills, so he robs me to pay his bills. Yeah, that's what you really have to be most worried about. Rich people aren't going to steal your fucking iPhone.
I really wish this song got more recognition, because the song itself deserves...
if Selma got a nomination for Best Original Song for mentioning Ferguson, I think Chiraq 100% needs a nomination for this song. We could argue what it should be eligible for in the Oscars all day long, and...
The song.
Okay, I mean, I would say a bunch of other things, especially production design, or if not production design, costuming or something like that.
I don't know, Mad Max.
No, I said nomination. I didn't say win.
Well, I mean, like, look at the fucking Oscars. I mean, they're just like, yeah, we're just going to throw these...
Oh, actually, speaking of the Oscars, I have to address something that I brought up in Room, where I was like, how could you not recognize the little boy? He was so fucking awesome. Apparently what happens is that the Academy doesn't elect who to nominate. The different production companies for each film have to, like, submit, you know, people to be considered for your consideration for different ballots. The problem is that you can... It's up to you to figure out, like, how they're going to be elected. So is so-and-so going to be supporting actor or best actor, lead actor? And you can do both. And what happened was that this little boy was for your consideration for both lead and supporting actor, which everybody voted on him, but it split his votes up, so he didn't get any nomination at all.
Well, that fucking sucks.
Yeah, it really fucking sucks.
You know what else sucks? The Oscar people of color thing. There were some competent things. Technically speaking, I'm not talking about what the Oscars actually is. I'm talking about, like, what the ideal is. Technically, it's supposed to be the best of the best. And that's how it's supposed to work. Obviously, we know the Oscars doesn't work that way. The Oscars usually tries to push...
Plays favorites or plays politics.
Right now, the transgender thing is so... probably...
Tangerine didn't get anything.
Well, so. Eddie Redmayne, so, you know, I mean, granted, he won last fucking year, but he played a transgender character,
yeah.
So...
Well, the thing about the Oscars so white thing that really gets to me is... Theoretically, because this is not my opinion at all, but if theoretically this was just a year where the best movies just all happen to be made by white people, if that's really true, okay, fine. I mean, like I've said about, like, female directors, well, you can't just pull female directors out of thin air if they're not applying. You can't just magically make 50% of directors women when 50% of the applicants aren't women. So I get that. But when you cherry pick films made predominantly by people of color and only pick the white people involved in making those movies, yeah, that makes you look really fucking racist. Yeah. There's no way to get yourself out of that one. That's bad.
But also, to be fair on some of the critics, which, let's face it, the two people calling for the boycott were the director of Chiraq and Will Smith's wife.
Who was like, why didn't my hubby get
exactly. So it's like, why didn't I win? Why didn't my hubby win? If it were two people addressing it outside of those two groups, I'd be like, fair point. That's
just self-interest.
Yeah, that's just like one of those things where it's like, you might want to keep it on the DL and just tell that to somebody else to address the issue. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, obviously other people are addressing the issue too, but, you know, to have the two prominent people be people that seem, at least on the surface level, to be sore losers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree. But at the same time, even I saw Sylvester Stallone get nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Creed and nothing else, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's like, why didn't like Ryan Coogler get like a nomination, or like the film itself get a nomination? Like, you can fucking take this Brooklyn
film
movie.
Itself, but also no kidding.
Or Bridge of Spies, like what the
fuck, Bridge of Spies.
Yeah,
damn.
Like I've been hearing
especially this year where so many films that are being nominated are bland as all hell. You have Bridge of Spies. Okay, I'm not going to say one way or another on Brooklyn because I haven't seen it, but that shit looks boring. So fucking boring. I went from 100% interested to not at all over the course of the trailer. I mean,
boo-hoo, white immigrants in the fucking 50s.
Yeah, in the 50s. Not even when it was like really bad. What was the other one? Oh, Sicario. Bland as all hell. I mean, like, the dinner table scene was awesome.
It started out good, and then there was like a cool thing at the end, but
best movie? Oscar nominations? No fucking way.
That movie's awesome if you haven't watched Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I guess so. Because even I've seen Breaking Bad, so.
But I can't imagine, like, somebody not seeing Breaking Bad, though I know people are out there that haven't, and if you haven't, like, holy shit.
Well, yes,
just do yourself a favor.
You've got all these nominations for just, like, super bland, not interesting. We've seen a million times already. And then you go Creed, which is this really interesting film, and the script for it, from what I've read of the script, is really good. I was very shocked that didn't get a nomination. And then Sylvester Stallone. I'm sorry, dude, no.
Well, he was Rocky, so...
So the fuck what?
I don't know. People said they loved his fucking performance, and, like... Back to the movie that we were talking about. Even though, like, I mean, let's face it. This movie gets you talking about race. It gets you talking about, like, fucking everything. Which and if it doesn't...
interesting. That makes it definitely a very compelling work of art, if nothing else. And I will say, somebody brought this up. Someone in the audience brought up, let's talk about gender in the film. Because, okay, fine. Let's talk about it.
Oh, I know that person. That person brings gender into everything.
No, that just is the conversation of media today. I mean, like, no matter what it is, let's talk about the gender in it.
Well, to be fair, the whole movie is literally centered around women taking agency and trying to fucking solve the issue over fucking sex.
Here's my issue with it. One girl in particular, she used a very specific way of talking about this film. She said exactly what you said about it's about women protesting and make a difference and using their agency and blah, blah, blah. So, is it sexist or not? Well, just... You know, if you don't like the sex element of it, just take that out and look at the rest of it. And I'm like, there's never a time when the girls have agency beyond you can't fuck us anymore. That never happens in the entire film. There's never a moment where they're not in control and have their power and have their agency because they're refusing to put out. That never happens where that's taken out of the equation. So if you took that out of the equation, you'd literally have no movie. Or at the very least, you would have no female presence in your movie.
In the movie, there isn't, like, really a struggle to, like, get that power. I mean, it's a struggle to organize, but it's not a struggle to, like...
No, I mean, they're like, but I want to have sex. I mean, like, that is a part of the movie, which I'm glad they addressed and didn't make this whole thing of, like, well, women can go without having sex and it's fine. Girls don't really care. Like, I mean, like, maybe on an individual-by-individual basis. Like, I'm sure there are... Like, yes, there are individuals who don't want to have sex, but, like, as a gender...
I love that line from the fucking chick that was a lesbian. She was just like, oh, I'm a dyke, so this is hilarious to me.
Oh, yeah, because she was a pimp, I think. She was a chick pimp, and these guys were like, "Oh, where the hoes at? We wanna fuck the hoes." And she's like, "No, they've all gone because they're doing this too. Thank God I'm a dyke." Like, yes.
Yeah, I gotta say, fucking Oedipus getting all pissed that his mom wasn't putting out.
No, he didn't explicitly say that.
He didn't explicitly say it, but like
that's what he's talking about.
Exactly, because his fucking name is Oedipus.
Right. I'm proud to say that I breastfed until I was 12 years old. Oh, God, no.
Yeah, but then that one guy was like, even the gay guys aren't putting out. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, even the guys on the DL aren't putting out. And then everyone looks at him, he's like, I don't know how I know that. I just heard that. No.
Yeah, so I kind of like that they threw that in there, too, where it's like...
And the movie was genuinely funny in a lot of places, which is a problem I had with the woman who was arguing for the film on stage, who was like, I didn't think this was funny. I didn't think this was funny. I didn't think the movie was supposed to be funny. The movie is funny. It's a comedy.
The movie is trying to be funny.
Yeah, very
throughout.
explicitly.
I mean, especially when they're having poetic talk about dudes' dicks. Yeah, like the movie is trying to be funny.
No, I mean, it's definitely supposed to be a humorous movie. There's no
in the tradition of satire, you're trying to be funny. I mean, granted, there are satirical works that are serious. For instance, Watchmen is a story that is serious, and I'm sorry, this is a bad comparison, but like Watchmen is a story that's completely serious, but it's a satire.
Oh, right, but I don't see it as a problem that this film was humorous. Like I said, you just need waves of emotion. I can agree with a lot of people when they're like, it's just too light. Okay, sure. But that doesn't mean, like, get rid of all the humor in them. No, that all worked very well.
I think the film could have gotten darker at points.
I definitely think so.
You know, especially with the gun violence. Like, there are times where I personally thought you could be a little bit more shocking. You could be a little bit more provocative, not just in language, but actually show something. Yeah, you can talk the talk and walk the walk, but nothing is more shocking than seeing a dead kid's body.
Yeah, but I will say that...
And I don't mean fucking...
With the sheets.
With the sheet over. I mean, like...
Actually
show it.
I agree with you, but I will also say that the moment when I checked out of that scene at the funeral was very specifically when he brought out a gun in front of the woman whose daughter has just been shot in the head. That's when I was like, no, fuck you. It was that a lot more than his speech, where he has a gun in front of her and he's holding it out for a long time. I'm like, fuck you. You do not do that right here, right now.
I'm sorry. I disagree with you on that scene. Wholeheartedly disagree with you on that scene.
That's good. That's the point of having a debate, which that one chick at the debate did not understand. She was like, I think this is a bad choice, you guys. And they were like, why? And they're like, well, we're all fighting.
Yeah.
We're all fighting. And it's like... And I love the fact that Ron Falzone, who is the referee for the Cinema Slapdown, was just like, well, considering the fact that we're all having these conversations and these arguments, I would say that this is exactly the right choice.
I like the fact that people were civil enough that things didn't get too out of hand.
Well, what I liked most was that, with the exception of the people presenting, everyone in the audience had very good points. Very strong opinions.
I was shocked because that's normally really not something that I see.
Well, we're so used to, like, the landscape of fucking YouTube and Facebook comments where people just post their ramblings and it's completely incoherent or has nothing to do with anything.
No, to be fair, we have had some good comments
that's
on
not
our stuff.
People on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
We've had great comments.
I think it's partly because we have a smaller community.
Yeah, exactly. But I just meant, like, in general, if you look at like an extremely popular music video or whatever is trending on YouTube, and you start looking at the comments to see what they're saying, just half of it's gobbledygook, you know?
Yeah, one of the things I like about our page is, like, you know, except for one person that was, like, commenting on, like, the whole issue that we talked about, like, with Gamergate and stuff.
Gamergate is harassment. End of story. I'm not going to tell you why. Just...
Yeah. I love the fact that even when there are times that I disagree with people...
People can argue it.
People can argue without attacking people directly. Like, that's an argument.
Oh, well, that definitely happened at this debate, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You a person with privilege.
No, you are white and privileged. And it was really it's really interesting to see what happened, because this guy got really upset and worked up, which was fine. And then he ended it by saying, "No, man, you don't understand. You're white and privileged." Which everyone was like, ooh. Then later, the guy was making a joke and was like, "I'm white privileged guy." And there was this chick right behind us who was like, "That's not funny." You weren't upset when the other guy called him white and privileged? What the fuck? And then later, another chick was like, "White and privileged guy." And then everyone laughed. And I'm like, yeah, okay. That's exactly what I would expect. Part of it is also, it is a form of prejudice, because you're automatically making an assumption that, oh, he's white, he's never experienced gun violence. It's not as if, oh, I'm white, I've never experienced gun violence. That's something I have experienced many different points in my life. I mean, I'm not going to get into it because it's personal, but you're just like so quick to assume, and I'm like, you're being prejudiced. If you don't want to say you're racist, that's fine, but you're still being prejudiced, and that's really not any better.
Yeah.
You're making an assumption about someone's life experiences based on their ethnicity.
And sometimes even their socioeconomic status could be lower than you. There is a trend that people who, for lack of a better term, social justice warriors, will say that, you know, certain people have a certain status of privilege, and they seem to hold people accountable for that privilege. Never mind where they fall on the socioeconomic status, because, like, there are times where, you know, where there are rich black people yelling at poor white people for their privilege. And part of me is like, okay, there are certain examples where you have a point. Like, if the police are going to suspect somebody, the racism factor falls in. There are other things where it's like, oh, because you have money, you're able to do things that people who don't have money do. So that is a form of privilege. And honestly, I believe having money is the strongest privilege.
I mean, if you really want to look at it in this perspective, look at Black Lives Matter protests happening on high-profile Ivy League university campuses versus Black Lives Matter protests that are happening in the streets.
Yeah, I can respect the ones that happen on the streets because, I mean, you know, they fucking deal with it.
Well, also, if you look at the people who are doing the Black Lives Matter protest, who are assaulting people, who are going up to other people and invading their space, who are screaming and yelling. I don't remember which university it was, but there was one where a protest happened in a library and they were saying, like...
Now, define assault. Was it a physical assault?
Yeah, it was. It was one of the Black Lives Matter protesters took a white girl, threw her against the wall, and screamed in her face, "You fucking white bitch." I would classify that as assault.
That does count.
There's accounts of public destruction, you know, property damage, whatever. And I have never seen a Black Lives Matter protester on a university campus even get so much as a slap on the wrist or anything. They're always told that they're in the right for doing what they're doing. Look at people who are peacefully protesting for Black Lives Matter in the streets, who are being brutally assaulted by the police, who are being arrested, who are being yelled at and screamed at by people around them. That's completely different repercussions for the same cause. But one is a bunch of rich people in a sheltered environment, and one is a bunch of poor people in public.
Well, and I will also say that nothing speaks louder than organized civility.
I agree.
Because if anybody fucks with you, they morally are in the wrong.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why the civil rights movement worked. Because you fuck with those people, it's on TV. They see it. You're wrong. Unfortunately, with a lot of the situations that have happened with police brutality and stuff like that, what people see is, oh, that person broke the law. They don't see past that. There are people that literally don't see past that. Okay, somebody broke the fucking law. They don't deserve to fucking die over that. And that's one of the things that I agree with Black Lives Matter. Now, granted, I don't believe in this concept of, oh, let's separate everything out into race and let's only focus on race, because police brutality is something that affects everybody. Now, granted, I know that Black Lives Matter is also talking about black on black crime and stuff like that. But
there
it's
are other minorities too. And that's not to say that, like, oh, well, police brutality happens to white people too, which it does. But if you're talking about systematic police brutality based on race, What, you think Latinos and Middle Eastern people
especially fucking Middle Easterners.
Yeah, anyone who is publicly has signs of being Muslim, I mean, like a hijab or anything like that. Who could just
be captured and disappear.
Yeah, but that's really my biggest problem with Black Lives Matter, where they're like, only Black Lives Matter. Like, not only, but they're like, we're only going to talk about this one thing. I'm like, there are other minorities. I'm not saying like, let's talk about white brutality. Fine, I get that. But this is a thing amongst several different ethnic minorities. You really should be having that in your discussion as well.
As a white person, I will say, I personally would prefer like a phrase, let's end blue on black. Or, something like that. Something that it's clear and concise what it actually means. Black Lives Matter, obviously fucking Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Other people's lives matter too, which is not to say, obviously, heaven forbid you say all lives matter.
Oh yeah, because that will brand you as a racist now, which I think is... I especially think that's stupid because for, I think about a month, I thought that term was supposed to, like I said before, be talking about minorities in general, not just black.
You don't say that word. That's racist.
No, you can say all lives matter. You can lose your job for saying all lives matter, which is garbage, because there's nothing wrong with that sentiment. If you want to say like that doesn't fit your political ideology, or but that's not a part of Black Lives Matter. Okay, fine.
Actually, I don't think that qualifies as a microaggression.
Yes, it does.
Now. Is that a microaggression or is that a major aggression?
Oh, you're right. It might be a major aggression. But it's just like, there should be nothing wrong with saying all lives matter. If you want to be like, but these issues are more important than trying to like have an umbrella term, that's fine. We can argue semantics. But there shouldn't be anything wrong with saying human lives matter, no matter what. There should be nothing wrong with that statement. Yeah,
and that's one of the things that like I find so frustrating, because there's all this infighting, especially if you're a liberal. I consider myself a liberal, and there are causes that I find myself motivated to be a part of, but like I'm not going to join a fucking group that's hostile to me. And, like, nobody should want to do that. Like, I understand putting yourself to the wayside, but I also understand not being a fucking masochist, And some people...
also not being a bigot.
Yeah, well...
No matter what spectrum you're on.
Here's the thing. There are some liberal white people that want to be a masochist because they feel guilt. They feel such guilt that they literally would like to be surrounded by people that will do nothing but belittle them for the color of their skin and possibly their socioeconomic status.
Or their gender. Don't leave that one out.
Oh, yeah. And their sexual preference, which sometimes is brought up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was reading an article a few months ago that was this man who was trying to force himself to be gay to shed his straight privilege. I'm like, that is the most idiotic, self-deprecating thing I've ever heard, because at the end of the day, I don't think other people around you are really going to care that much about who you're fucking.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that it's just, there are certain things that most people can agree are fucked up and stupid. Mm-hmm. Make bullet points and let's agree on something. Which is one of the things that I liked, even though I thought the concept of no peace, no pussy was kind of ridiculous. I mean, like, I don't think the movie is taking that as seriously.
As, like, especially some people in the audience, I think, took it.
Yeah, because obviously that wouldn't fucking solve anything.
No, it really wouldn't. I mean, you couldn't really make that happen anyways, but also, that's not doing anything. That's actively not doing something in particular, but that's not the same thing as doing something.
And I guess that's one thing that I can see as a problem. Action through inaction
is passive.
No matter how aggressive the personality of it is.
You could even say passive-aggressive. I don't know why I thought that was so clever. Yeah. I don't know why that sounded better in my head than when I said it out loud.
So I'm going to have to research the woman that they said this thing was based off of, because they said it was...
The woman from 2003 who was starting a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it was women in one of the countries in Africa.
Also, I think it was a very small village. It wasn't the entirety of Chicago,
or the entirety of the fucking world, which is
they were saying like
what the movie
they were saying to. Strippers, prostitutes, and sex shops were all shutting down, and I'm like,
it's
there is no situation that would ever fucking happen.
People still have to put food on the table.
I mean, that might happen in one place or another place or a couple places, but citywide, no fucking way. That was a lot of really heavy stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the movie
inspires that in people. I know. I agree.
And I appreciate Spike Lee for doing that. I appreciate Spike Lee for not making something that is either fluff or so depressing that the only thing you want to do is to not think about it.
I will say that as much as people said, oh, it's lighthearted, oh, it doesn't take it seriously, I never felt it got to a point where it was condescending. Maybe I'm alone in that. Maybe other people did think that. But I personally am kind of surprised that it never turned into a lecture or, like, belittling the audience. Not because, like, that would happen with this subject, but just because that's something that's so easy to fall into in Hollywood films in general.
What did you think about the final battle or whatever? Like, whoever comes first or whatever?
Besides the fact that the entire concept was super stupid, I got really confused because when they said, oh shit, I was like, they both came at the same time. But then it's like, no, but I was about to win, you guys. And I'm like, wait, what? That whole thing was just very contrived and dumb. Oh shit, you guys, it's a brass bed! Okay.
Unless they came at the same time, then I guess, like...
Well, that's what I thought, and then later they said that they were still trying to win. So I guess neither one of them came. Or maybe they had to go again because they tied. I don't know. At some point, I have to listen to myself talk about this and be like, what the fuck?
I know, it is kind of ridiculous. And then you find out the dude fucking killed a little fucking girl. And then you're like, wow... We just had
that
like
was
this
plot convenience to the max.
Oh my god, yeah.
That was your father and you.
Well, to be fair, that is plot convenience that only a Greek storyteller would say.
Yeah, I guess so. But also, I mean, at least that's sort of woven into part of his message where he turns himself in and starts preaching to everyone else to, like, not do the same shit he did, I guess.
Yeah, and then it was, like, this whole pit of all the guns collected. Yeah. And I'm just watching that going...
That is way too small.
Well, A, that's way too small, and B, in the United States, that's laughable. You can't take away all the guns in the United States. It's never gonna fucking happen. Yeah, Second Amendment people, it's never going to fucking happen.
Yeah, for one, they're not going to take away your guns. And for two, look at the first part of the Second Amendment, where it specifically says, well-regulated militia. That is not happening right now.
Yeah, the literal quote is, a well-regulated militia, the right to bear arms shall not be infringed.
Right. And here's my thing, is that when people talk about gun control, some people who talk about gun control are talking about no guns, period. And that gets in the way of people who talk about gun control and let's fix a broken system to make sure
no guns period in the United States is fucking retarded. Well, it will never fucking happen.
Yeah, but some people think that it should. But here's the problem is that...
It can't. It's physically impossible for that to happen.
I agree, but I'm saying some people argue that.
Unless we become a fucking totalitarian fucking state where every fucking house is ransacked.
I agree, but... Some people will argue that, but what I'm saying is that it really infringes on conversation about gun control in terms of fixing this broken system and putting in safety measures so then in Republican rhetoric, more guns go to good guys with guns than bad guys with guns.
Oh yeah, but what happens if the good guy breaks bad? Which seems to fucking happen with mass shootings a lot.
No, I mean with mass shootings a lot of times they do get guns legally through loopholes and through flaws in the system, not like they're great people and all of a sudden, boom. You know, Bryce Williams had a record of being angry and violent, and the way that he got his gun was probably because of switching his name. Dylan Roof was convicted of drug possession and still legally got his hands on a gun. And James Holmes, the guy who did the Aurora shooting, was originally going to bomb it and then realized that guns were a lot less suspicious to just buy a whole bunch of guns than to individually buy the components of a bomb. And I just feel like a lot of people are like, oh, well, I'm a responsible gun owner. Okay, so if we put in some regulations to make sure that people who are not responsible gun owners are not getting guns easily and freely, then you should have nothing to worry about as a responsible gun owner. You should be fine. Because, I mean, for example, tons of people still have cars. Shit tons of people still have cars.
Are you using the car comparison again?
I am using the car comparison again. Because that's still a lot harder to get your hands on than a gun. But still, okay. A ton of people still have cars.
Okay, sorry. I've heard some people say, oh, well, you know, somebody with a car could just, like, run over a whole bunch of people. Yeah, no. That's happened, like...
I mean, yes, but I mean, like, that wasn't what I was arguing.
There are only 2 cases where I actually heard of that happening.
Well, you also can't
here's the thing,
easily kill a ton of people with a car. Yeah. You could maybe intentionally kill a person with a car. Maybe.
I mean, you could kill a crowd of people with a car, but that's like, you know, speed and all this kind of shit.
No, but you have to go through a lot more shit to legally have a car. And you could illegally have a car, but you're really likely to get in trouble for it. And it's not really worth it to happen en masse.
To be fair...
why is getting a gun easier than getting a car?
Yeah.
When a car at least has another function besides potentially... hurting and killing other people.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, guns, you can hunt with them and you can use it for intimidation, but it doesn't serve any other function besides hunting, intimidation, harm, and murder. That's all it can do.
You can also get your license revoked, which the concept of gun licenses revoked, I mean, like, in extreme cases, like ATF, but, like, that's for organized crime, not...
yeah.
Not individuals who... There are some individuals that it's like, you have an arsenal. Why?
Yeah. And there are certain guns that I think people should not really be able to get their hands on. Because there are certain guns that are designed to kill and hurt as many people as quickly as humanly possible.
Well, yeah,
that should not be easily and readily available.
And, I mean, some people argue, oh, well, the government's going to crack down on me. And then it's like...
if you have a gun like that and you're going up against the cops, you're still going to fucking lose.
Yeah, it's like... and then you wonder... like, one of the things that blows my fucking mind is there are people that buy heavy-grade artillery, and then they're like... oh, why are the police being militarized? You know, why are the police having all this kind of fucking stuff? And then it's like, well, maybe if you didn't have a fucking arsenal in your house, the police might not have all this shit. But since your fucking Second Amendment says that I gotta fucking have this shit, the police gotta fucking defend their own too. And yeah, they're gonna fucking go overboard because they're gonna assume that some people might have the capability to fucking do that shit.
Bringing it back to Chiraq, that was something I really liked that they pointed out, was how heavily militarized the cops are. And in that situation, it was a group of unarmed women. That seems entirely plausible to happen in real life.
I was surprised the movie never touched police brutality. Like,
that's not true.
Actually showing.
It brushed on it a couple of times.
It brushed on it a couple times.
Really get into it. I think there were exactly 3 instances. Like when the police squadrons come in, and Samuel L. Jackson, who has no other name besides Samuel L. Jackson, let's just put that out there.
No, he does.
No, I know he does, but I mean, like, realistically.
The narrator in the story, yeah.
No, I know, but I'm saying, like, he's always Samuel L. Jackson. It doesn't matter what movies he's in. That's who he is, except for Django Unchained.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But anyway, he brings it up. There's the say their names speech that happens. Fever. There's the say their names speech that happens on the top of the military arsenal, which I thought was really great. I actually really, really liked that part. And there's the part where they have the copper and the thug right next to each other. And that's about it.
Yeah, and especially since, like, bringing up Black Lives Matter, I mean, that is the major issue. At least that's what I thought. I'm not really sure because everybody seems to be saying a different thing.
Well, it's kind of like a lot of things. So
well, it's kind of like Occupy Wall Street all over again, where it's like, what are you trying to do?
Yeah, when I was talking earlier about unorganized political revolution, I was not singling out Black Lives Matter. Like I said before, whatever political spectrum you're on, your movement probably has this problem.
I get the point. It's trying to illustrate the fact that in the media and all this kind of stuff, like, we treat it as if Black lives don't matter. Fine. Great, I get that point. What are we supposed to do about it? Just treat lives like they fucking matter? Yeah, that's fucking great. But at the same time, that doesn't fucking change anything.
There are a couple people who do have actual solutions. Like, there's a guy who was on The Daily Show who brought up, I think, maybe 5 different things that could be implemented, like, legally to help curb police brutality and to make cops more accountable for their actions. And I thought, great, you have solutions. That's awesome. I think what it comes down to is that there's not enough people like that in the movement, though. Not just publicly, which is a problem, but also on a case-by-case basis, the people that you meet normally in person or online who talk about it don't talk about solutions. And I think that the point of any movement is to get to a solution. I don't think the point of any movement is to, this is bad, you guys. Look at how bad this is. I mean, that's part of it, but it's got to be going somewhere.
If I were going to ask one question, it would be, is it your movement or is it a collective movement? You know, and that's unclear to me.
Yeah, because different people say different things. That debate was wild.
I hope I can find some footage of it.
Yeah. Because I was just super impressed by all the people who were in the audience who were all getting really into it, because I heard a lot of different things that did make, you know, that really influenced how I saw in the movie, but also it was really good to hear lots of different personal perspectives. It was good that people were balanced on things. They didn't use it as an excuse to just rant about how shitty their life was. But it's still important to hear different people's stories and different people's perspectives on things.
Right, of course.
So I thought it was awesome. And it was great. There was a guy sitting right next to us who, the guy who was the cons was like, who was arguing against the movie on stage and was not really arguing anything, was like, okay, maybe I should change my argument. And the guy next to me was like, don't backpedal! Awesome. There was a lot of just like interjections and shouting out things that were very, very funny.
It was great debate and audience include.
Yeah. And this goes for both of them on the cons and the pro side. Neither one of them could make a point. Now, to be fair, part of it for the guy who was arguing against the movie is nobody was letting him make a point. Right. Because people in the audience were saying literally the exact same thing he was saying, and he was like, that's what I was saying. But he couldn't actually say it. But a lot of people were cutting off the other chick, too, mostly because she was boring. She was not saying anything interesting. She had a very weak argument for the film, too. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, because, like I said, it was pretty weak. It wasn't really that memorable. But she really was just, like, not getting into the meat of the story. She was just like, well, yeah, you know, I think it's great that, like, they're talking about, you know, all these different, and,
to be fair, like, I think this was the first time she saw the movie, so she had that.
Oh, she was totally winging it. Yeah. No question. But you're not supposed to do that with these. That's not cool. You're supposed to, like, spend a few weeks preparing and have notes with you when you go up there. And even if you do wing it, like, have some ideas. Don't be, like, forming it right there. Oh, no. Actually, I take back everything I just said about her. Because she was not originally supposed to be arguing on this film. She was brought in later. I can actually forgive her for not seeing the movie before and not having a good argument if she came in at the last minute. I can get that.
All right, so let us know what you think. Did you like Chiraq? Did you hate Chiraq? Did it affect you?
Did it offend you?
What do you think the movie did right? What do you think it did wrong?
What do you think we did right and wrong?
Yeah, did we offend you? Did we affect you?
Well, also, bring in your own opinions and ideas and stuff, but also, if we said some stuff that was bullshit, call us on our bullshit, that's fine. To be fair, we're sitting here, we're not looking things up as we go and fact-checking.
Right, that's why we didn't include the characters' names, because
well, okay, that was an issue in the movie, was that I get that you're, like, trying to bring the play in and all this, but you gave every single character a long, complicated Greek name that nobody knows how to pronounce. Like, what are you supposed to do with it? I could say Demetrius, and that's about it.
All right. Thanks for listening.